Welcome to the Built to Win podcast. I'm your host, Luke McCluskey, and during this podcast, I am going to be sitting down with the top 1% of people in their industry. I'm going to be getting under the bonnet of what makes them special, what makes them great, and what makes them stand out from the crowd. Welcome to another episode of the Built to Win mini podcast. Today, I am buzzing to have on Kat Harris and Chloe Garner. Kat has been with the business for 3 years, became a shareholder. Chloe's been with the business 4 years, recently became a shareholder. Collectively grew their books to 30k WGP, and Chloe developed Kat from a trainee into what he is today. I'm buzzing to have you guys on because I think contract recruiters definitely work a certain way in that they do ones and twos, right? They go into a business, they do a deal, and then they move on to the next company, which is great. But you guys have done things like really differently, and you've actually worked really well to once you land that first deal, like with major logos, like and then move into like scaling those accounts properly. Getting SOW solutions in those businesses and ultimately thinking like an owner of a business, not just somebody that is just there to bash the door down and do a deal. And there's nothing against that we have a lot of that in the business, but I just really wanted you guys on because I just love the style of how you recruit and how you scale accounts. So when we were talking about when we were doing the prep for this, we spoke about a couple of key areas. So I'll start with you, Chloe. So so you landed Abbott Diagnostics, right? Is it or Abbott Laboratories, or is it both?
It's just easier to say. I just say Abbott.
Abbott. Okay, so you landed Abbott. And I'd never heard of Abbott, right? When that happened, I just knew that this big deal would come in, and then really quickly, like that account just like scaled massively. Like talk me through, like, who did you call and why? Where did that come from?
I felt like it wasn't so much, I guess, targeted in the sense of maybe how we do it now, as we worked a little bit differently then. But kind of there was, I like to trickle down or like go to people who maybe have an oversight of more things because even if they're not looking right now, they'll understand teams. So kind of initially made an introduction to John Byrne. I'd had kind of multiple conversations with him, kind of being consistent with kind of staying in touch. He was busy, so he's not always kind of free for kind of a very detailed conversation, but just made sure I was consistent with it, followed up with him. And I actually sent him an email with the candidate that I knew that sit within his team. Off the back of that, kind of was able to get 2 roles and filled them quite quickly. So that's kind of how it initially.
Then it was Ireland, Chicago, it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, the automation engineer that we got placed at that time, obviously he's still there. He does a very good job.
Yeah.
So kind of him being there and delivering these projects and working on different people's team, when I was making connects with people, when people were kind of going or internally referencing us, they not only were they impressed maybe with kind of what I was pitching or delivering, when they internally referenced us, we'd done a good job and had delivered, and they had remained happy with us throughout the time.
So I think that matches your style as well, right? That's exactly you. And you can tell that obviously you developed Kat because that's exactly your style. You much prefer to get recommended into another hiring manager, or like you like to know that your reputation will serve you well once you're in and you're cross-pollinating across the business, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a really good feeling when you do such a good job with a client and they go, you know what, I think you can help my colleagues, right? And I think it's when you care about the roles that you do and the jobs and the people, both candidate and client side, it shows that with the kind of process that you install and kind of give them clarity on, you know, what the job role is and kind of going on so much detail and show you so much care. And then when you actually deliver that, those candidates are kind of blown the client's mind and the process is streamlined, and in which when you put a client in a situation where rather than him going, you know, these candidates are just not fit with the right fit, they're like, oh my God, all 3 of them could do the job. And generally take all three of them if I was in a situation to do so. It puts them in a tough situation where they're wanting to sleep on it, going, yeah, I need to sleep on this and work out which one's great, because they're all great. So you kind of put them in a predicament. And I think when you care so much about, especially when you've got such a good relationship with that client and they finally give you that opportunity and you want to prove not to yourself, but to him that he made the right choice of obviously building that relationship with you and kind of going on that journey. And yeah, exactly. It's trusting in the process, and not on just my side, but on his side, that he's there to ride with me, and he did that. And of course, we've been on a really good journey, especially with a few of our clients, and one in particular where we've kind of now gone in and we've maybe got 10, 11 contractors out there, and supporting the business and kind of doing really well. We do check-ins with both candidates and clients, and it's kind of streamlined from there. And it's just a really good service. And now we're going globally, helping out in Europe. And, it's a really good testament of where we first started with that client to now. And it's just a good thing that, we're still there, we're still communicating, and it's just a really good ride. And it's just
I love that. And it's evident to see. I want to rewind it back a little bit, like right to the start for you. And when we talk about Nestle again in the prep session, you said to me that you spoke to 70 people to break into Nestle. My question to you is why didn't you stop?
I think it's one of those things where when you give a dog a bone, I guess you could say, and we were given a list of clients that we would like to break into, and the way I am, if I'm given like an option of what to do and kind of where to go, especially at the start of my career when I was quite new, I had something to kind of strive for, I had a purpose. And Nestle, even though I didn't come from a massive food background in the sense, but of course I didn't know many food clients when you first start, you just don't.
Yeah,
especially
the label ones.
Exactly, yeah. And Nestle was just a brand that, if I spoke to people outside of recruitment, they just know who it is. And it's one of those things where, it's just a really good achievement, because there's some clients out there that they work with many recruiters. With Nestle, they were quite I spoke to 70 people for a reason, because they are one of those clients where they are quite hard to break into, but it's obviously so rewarding once you kind of get into there and start delivering and doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that changed on the call where it actually landed and you got given that opportunity? What actually changed?
Yeah, I think it was the right person at the right time. A lot of the time, of course, not in a desperation, but it was just at the time there was so much projects, and then and we were so local to them, we were able to build that relationship quite quickly in the sense of meeting them and whatnot, and we just had gelled really well, and the needs that arise we were able to fill within 24 hours. So it's quite a quick turnaround. So signing up wasn't, but in reality, of course, it kind of big things to come.
The big enterprise accounts aren't easy to crack, right? And once you do crack them, they make it right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And the thing is, you don't want to do one big, all that effort you kind of put into nurturing that big client and kind of getting into it. You don't want to do ones and twos, because what's the point kind of putting all that time and effort in and energy and kind of, market knowledge? Because of course, outside of speaking to clients, you're learning about the company more and more. You're speaking to candidates to learn more and more. And then you're kind of building this almost like a mind map or war map, I guess you can say, on where to attack and who to attack. And it's one of those things where you kind of driven so much where you're in too deep and you're kind of just going at it until you kind of hit the nail on the head. Yeah, exactly. You've got to be resilient.
So this is a question for both of you. What do you think most recruiters get wrong when they're trying to land major logos?
If I'm honest, I think they give up too easily. I think some people are like, they don't have that persistence. They're not that, it's either hunger or they haven't been taught that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a sense, you make one or two phone calls. I think if me and Chloe did that when we were trying to break into our clients, I think it would have been done by now. We wouldn't be where we are today. I think it's that persistence, kind of, keeping up with it, being determined, kind of going, getting all the information. You got to stand like a market expert. I think.
Yeah.
To do that, two calls isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be persistent and be there the whole entire journey.
So when I look back at like Nestle and Abbott, I think if we look at it now, and like we obviously never knew how big Abbott was going to get. You was going after Nestle because it was Nestle and it was a big brand, which obviously is really good. That's wicked for like when you're early on in your career. It gives you an anchor to go towards something, which is great. But now, like, how would you decide whether an account is worth pursuing?
think for me, it's just about like knowing what have got going on. And I think like maybe this answers the other question a little bit as well about I think maybe what recruiters are getting wrong is eh, you want to listen to the clients, and it's recruitment is it's everything. There's like all different moving parts. So it's not just about kind of fitting somebody into a slot and just hoping for the best that they fit. Like you really want to understand what these clients want, whether you're super chatty or not super chatty, or whether you're kind of working with them just kind of professionally. It's just really understanding what exactly these people want, what skill gaps do they have, what do they have coming up in their world. Like understand like, at the moment lots of clients that we're working with are doing digitalization projects, and it's about knowing that these clients are delivering something like that, and ultimately we have the people who can deliver that. We know, so they've got something that we know we can support with, reaching out to them because of that, because then you can sell yourself in the best way.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you actually can deliver this. Like I've always found that it's easier to, it's not even going off on a tangent here, but you can sell yourself. But then
Mhm.
after that point, after you've done the initial selling, it's you have to remember to do everything. Like make sure you're taking detailed notes from these people, because the next time you call them, if you're showing them that you've remembered that they were on, but also you remember the exact 6 things that they said that they were struggling with, then you're going to build trust with that client.
Yeah,
And then even
100%.
after that, when you've placed candidates and to do with internal referrals, you should be kept staying in touch with that candidate, caring about that candidate, not just doing it because it's a tick box exercise, actually chatting to them and understanding how things are, understanding the client. And I think that
And also, the candidate's going to tell you everything that's going on in that project. They're going to tell you if Dave has just left, right?
yeah.
If someone's just left, and if you they're your temperature check, they'll tell you everything that's going on.
And
Right?
also, if your client, if your candidate, if you don't stay in touch with them, and they might be doing a good job, but if you place them, let's say 6 months ago, you've not spoken to them since,
Mm.
and somebody comes to them, they're not going to recommend you. They're not going to know you. So I think like it's kind of everything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Kurt, question for you: what does a good first conversation actually sound like?
In my opinion, I think it's just getting to know them and kind of selling yourself, but not sometimes not just selling, but of course just letting them know you are who you are. If you know what I mean, getting your personality across. You know, I have a little one that the reason why I do sales in the first place is because of him, and all the things you want to get out of it. But of course, at the end of the day, we all have something in common with the people we're speaking to. I think it's just having that common ground
Mhm.
where it's not just selling yourself, but also just selling yourself as a person in regards to this is who I am, because people buy from people.
Yeah,
And I think that's really important. And then once you've kind of overcome that hurdle and you've kind of got that relationship, selling the business is a lot more easier, especially when it's relevant. And if you know what you're talking about, you kind of know or foresee what projects to have in the pipeline. And then you can kind of relay that information and kind of sell in or of course show where you can help, because you know where the headaches are, you know what projects are coming up because you've already done your homework. And then of course just kind of being real, being your genuine self, life becomes a lot easier because people connect with people.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit different in that sense. Because I think on my initial first calls, I wouldn't be asking them personal questions or telling them personal things unless like it kind of was leaning that way. I always feel like a good conversation is I want to um make sure I'm clear about kind of what exactly is their scope. I think in our job, if you assume things about people, then down the road when you're having conversations, that doesn't go well for you, if that makes sense. So I'll be very clear about kind of what exactly you're doing, like a
yeah,
clear directive of like why I'm reaching out to you, and then and make sure I understand exactly what your role is, what you're doing, because then I think that just has a very solid base for any other conversations that happen later on. Like
Mhm.
if we then get on a Teams call and I'm chatting to you about this, that, and you're starting to build that relationship. But I just think kind of I have a few questions, a few answers that I need to know to make sure that I'm actually suitable for this client, that I can deliver what is in their world, what they're struggling with. And I think that just gives you then a solid base to just go on that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so you both scaled accounts massively, like globally. Um, Tell me, like, how do you go from one contact to like multiple teams across multiple countries?
I think it all starts with the first deal. I think once you've kind of got your foot in the door and you've got that credibility, you can there's so many ways to go around it. You can, of course, just do your own homework and kind of go for people with a similar role or in a similar space and kind of just target them, saying you work with these individuals already, you're more welcome to kind of, sometimes you've got to put your foot out there and go, if you spoke to them, I guarantee they'll give me a really good recommendation. And I've done it a few times and it's worked really well. But also sometimes if you have a really good relationship, you nurture that client already, likelihood is they'll recommend you when the time comes anyway. If a colleague comes up to them and goes, oh, do you know somebody that can do this? Likelihood is, as long as you've done a really good job and you've kept in contact, you've solidified that relationship and you're always there, then of course, normally you're 9 times out of 10, you're the first person I mention anyway.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like expanding accounts, you don't have to wait for that first deal. I think sometimes if you're in the right places, speaking to the right people, and you're coming across as credible, and you again are showcasing what you can do and it's relevant to them, I think people start recommending. I'm sure you find.
Well, you've had it recently.
They
right?
recommend you to before you've got your first deal, as long as you're speaking to people who kind of will be happy to do that, or maybe are in positions in the business where they have oversight of different things and aren't in a silo.
Mhm.
But as long as you're coming across as credible and you are showcasing them that you do have the right type of people, or you understand what they're talking about, I think people will start to recommend you. And if you are already speaking to certain people and then you do get a deal that's like, maybe you spoke to this person 3 months ago, as soon as you have that deal, you go connect back with them.
Yeah.
They're already warm, they already like you, but now it's so much easier for them because somebody else in the business has been able to get you onboarded because they have a stronger need than what this person does. But you've got those relationships anyway, so
100%.
it can kind of happen off the back of the deal.
Well, we've seen it recently, right? Where
Yeah.
it's just, where you've an account that's just blowing up, which is good. Kat, I want to go back to Nestle. 5 roles came in after 70 conversations.
Yeah.
What was it? What specifically changed? Where did that come from?
I think it was the relationship was got to a point where the individual actually needed something. Of course, sometimes some people want to be there as and when it hits straight away, but of course, sometimes you've got to be there for the long ride. And I think, we were constantly keeping in touch. Of course, I knew exactly when it was going to drop. It was just a matter of everything kind of landing when he said it. So, and then when we finally touched base, maybe for like the 10th time, 11th time. And that was when he went, Kurt, I really need you. This is your time to prove yourself. And he kind of gave me 5 roles in which he said, show me what you got. And we placed all 5.
In a week?
Oh, yes. I know. Yeah.
You were ready.
Yeah, very ready. Yeah, we already kind of spoke to candidates because we were already ahead of the game. We were already aware it was coming in.
So I want to kind of move on now into like selling solutions and not just roles, right? And you guys are doing tons of this, right? Getting clients on global SOW terms, which is, that's the difference maker, right? In contract recruitment, bums on seats is one thing, but actually going out and offering a really slick service in the form of a statement of work is the next level, right? That's like that's the pinnacle of everything. Yeah. Like why do clients trust you at that level now? Where does that come from? To be able to go in and sell an SOW.
I think my answers are also boring because I just think it's like you build foundation. You're doing exactly the same thing that you were doing when you were doing 1s or 2s. So you're understanding their pain. Very clear in what we deliver. I think we don't have conversations, especially when we're on teams together. I don't think we're saying, oh yeah, with everything you're doing, your colleagues, everything. Okay, this is our skill set. Yeah, this is our skill set. This is what we do. We have I'm not an engineer, so I'm not saying I have a good understanding like they do, but I think we can go into quite a bit of detail about our understanding. And I think that whether you build that trust for 1 or 2 placements, and that's all that hiring managers are looking at, but whether it's kind of a more senior hiring manager, that 1-to-1 of the level of you building the trust with them is the same. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you're speaking to a hiring manager who has 4 people in their team, or whether you're speaking to a global engineering director who has 4 direct reports and oversees 200 people for multiple different sites, that 1-to-1 conversation with
Still built on trust.
it's still the same. You're still
Yeah.
you show up to every single call wanting to showcase yourself in the best light and be credible. And I think that me and you are get enjoyment about learning stuff about roles, all the information you can get so that we can come across as more.
because you guys really have nailed the, like, neither of you feel like recruiters. It's like partner. That word partner, like, to these businesses. Like, how do you feel about that?
It's a big pride. So on my side, so it's a massive pride thing where, of course, it's one of those things where, you know, out of all the recruiters in the world, especially in England alone, you know, because of course, you know, the amount of people probably cold calling them and they, you know, they chose us. It's a really big thing. And in regards to the SOW piece that you mentioned, it's really important where if you care about something and you believe in the product, then it's so much easier to sell. And me and Chloe, I think we're one of the main things that I will say we do 100%. We believe that they actually benefit the client. We're not just selling for the sake of selling, or we're not trying to pull a fast one on the client or anything like that. We genuinely believe that this service could help them. And it's just asking those 1 or 2 extra questions that a lot of recruiters miss out to kind of dig deep in. And,
Yeah,
and then
100%.
and then the product's easier to sell and
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
tailored to them, but the product actually works and it generally does help them. And if something's beneficial to a client, likelihood is they'll say yes, because it mutually helps them as well as us, because of course it puts us in a really good situation where we're not just an agency anymore. We are somebody somewhere in between a consultancy and an agency, and it puts us in a good light.
Yeah, 100%. And so on that point, why is SOW so attractive to clients?
A lot of people ask me who our circle or what our circle. And I could sit here and say that we help find the top 5% of talent in the marketplace. I could also sit here and say we'll do so in timescales that you've probably never seen before. And whilst all of these things stand true, I think the true thing that separates us from our competition and what really makes us unique is the people that work here. We all have a relentless drive to succeed, a relentless drive to win, and winning for our customers. So ensuring that we find our customers the right contractors to deliver their projects on time and in budget. Winning for our contractors, ensuring that we can get continuity. So going from one contract to another contract to another contract, and ensuring that we've got the client base to be able to deliver on those promises. We specialise in markets, the food manufacturing market and the life sciences market across the UK, Europe and USA. We deliver large-scale capital programmes. We deliver large-scale ERP programmes. But I do appreciate that these are just words. So why not give us a call? Let us prove ourselves in a live opportunity and let us showcase what we can do for you.
If I'm honest, it is multiple things where I won't name the client. There's a client where each individual invoice they raise, they will be in charge £200, which, as you can imagine, let's just say they have 15 contractors on one site.
On weekly invoices.
On weekly invoices, that's a lot of money. And we identified that really early doors. And when we kind of mentioned the SOW, putting it all in kind of one invoice, you know, regardless of how many contracts they have, even if they have 5 at the start and they kind of staggered it up, or they went straight in with 20 contractors, it's just one invoice, one timesheet. Life becomes a lot easier, but it's also manageable on their side. But you know, that £200,
we take that burden here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, we have great compliance team, a great team that kind of help us with that. But the main thing is, you know, 200 to potentially 20k a week, you know, that they would be in charge, not just on contract fees, but also just on the raising an invoice. It's just a lot of money. So it's just a benefit to everybody. There's other benefits to it, but that was one that really stood out when that was the first time we kind of pitched an SOW.
It's really interesting because when you told me that, I went on a bit of a mission when I was speaking to clients to actually ask them, do you know how much it costs you to raise an invoice? And it's very few people that actually understand that level of detail. And actually, when they go away and have a look at it, the costs are massive, because once it goes through all of the supply chain, all of the PO sign off, and all of that stuff, there's so much work involved in raising an invoice. That's just one area that we can take that problem away, right?
Yeah, well, most of them use a third-party system, so because it's not in-house, you know, they're of course paying somebody to do it, and then that's where it comes costly. Especially it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So you know, the more invoices they are being charged, the more we can kind of reduce that as much as we can.
Why do you think most recruiters don't get to the level of selling a SOW?
We do it on every call, every intro call, you know, regardless if it's 1 or 2, if they're known about it firsthand early doors, regardless if it's just 1 for now, of course they know that if, you know, God forbid on their side, they need more people.
Yeah.
Of course, they know they can just add that on without that added premium or anything like that. And it's just less stress because the admin burden is removed.
I think it fits very nicely into like we support on projects, and we speak often, even before we're doing statement of works, we speak often with clients about their full project from concept all the way through to commissioning. What roles are you looking at? What team are you looking to build? Obviously, if you just need a PM to support on the client side, that we've always been able to support with that in statement of works. We were always having these conversations about what are you going to need at different phases, when do you ramp up? And I think because we've always been having those conversations about building project teams for them at different phases and it flowing and changing, I think the conversations naturally for us, I think, very much eased into that, because it's the same thing that we've always been doing and delivering for them. It's just the way that we wrap it up.
Yeah, it's more sophisticated.
It is. And so
valuable.
It's maybe not exactly the same, but the conversations and the questions and everything that we were already asking, because we want to work with clients and get multiple roles with them and support them.
So obviously both of you became shareholders this year. When I look back to both of your like early years, like most people in recruitment that have ended up doing really, really well, it's never easy right at the start, right? It's like you'll be bashing your head against a brick wall for quite some time. That resilience, like where did that come from?
I think I'm a psychopath. I don't know. I just like feel like I feel like you have to have the resilience internally, first of all. I think it's if someone's coming in and doing the right things, but they don't have the resilience themselves, you can't really teach somebody to do that. But I also think very early on to enjoy like the conversations and
The
the
craft.
knowledge. Yeah. So I still very much now get very excited about if I get a Teams call booked in with somebody that I've been trying to get in touch with, or if something's on my radar and it like flips into something, I still get very excited about that. And so I think that early on you need to enjoy that and not be focusing on like ultimately you want to be getting into positions and kind of making placements. That's what our job is to do, and supporting clients in that way. But I think early on I very much detach myself from
Yeah,
that.
fair play, because not many people do that early doors.
Yeah, and I feel like I say to some of the guys out there now when they're newer as well, and they're like, I'm so stressed out, I need a job. And I think this is like that we're really trying to push out there. I'm like, you've just got to relax about it.
Yeah.
Like I know we need to get jobs, of course, that's what we do. But when you're so just focusing on that, I feel like, I know it's ridiculous to say, clients will sense that.
Of course, no, 100%.
Like you need to just
100%
relax and just enjoy the conversations that you're having. And like I said, if you build up that good base initially, then when you're touching base with them and you understand their pain points, you do actually have candidates that would fix that pain point for them. The jobs will just
Go well. They'll take care of themselves. So if you do the basics brilliantly, consistently, day in, day out, the rest will take care of itself, right? But that's a really hard thing from a mindset perspective. We are pushing it hard out there, and but it's still difficult. People feel the pressure. People know they've got a target that they need to hit. What about you, Kat?
Similar to Clive, I think you've got to be tenacious. I think I'm resilient is my main two. Of course, you need to have a lack of, I guess, fear of rejection. So, of course, at the start, you're going to be rejected more times than not. But, of course, it's just having that belief that you know what you're doing and you're only going to get better and better. One day it will just click and all the dots will join in your brain, I guess you could say. And then life becomes a lot easier. And then it's just kind of like working like clockwork. I think the main thing is just consistency. You don't want to, after a bad week or anything negative, you don't want to revert back to kind of being that person that kind of a bit more shyer on the phone or anything like that. You kind of just got to be tenacious, outgoing, and at the end of the day, I think people buy from people, and I think you just got to be yourself. The reason why you're employed, the reason why you're in this business is because there's something within that person that that we saw, you saw, and whatnot. I think you just got to be yourself, and kind of show clients, why you're good at your role, why you're good at your job. But as well as that is obviously find the right kind of candidate, and just get all that information from them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. So it's like absolute pleasure to have you both as shareholders of Circle. Like you've been on incredible individual journeys, worked together, got to like amazing heights in this business. Like, what do you see now that you probably didn't before? Now you're a shareholder.
I think you get more insight into the business in regards to like how it functions, where we are, there's certain areas in the business we may not known is doing so well, or there are bits where we could tweak and improve the business. You know, that we have a lot more, not influence, I get, well, yeah, I would say influence actually, in the sense of we're able to put maybe our points across and potentially what we've learned and what we've kind of gone through and kind of implement that into the business and hopefully improve and help and only grow further and further.
I would like to say that I have more of a buy-in to the company, but I'm so bought in anyway. So I feel like,
Lifers.
yeah.
Okay. Something we talk about quite a lot is earning the right, like to anything in this business. What do you think it is that separates people who will become shareholders, right? We're going to market in 2030. Our goal is to sell for 100 million. What is it that's going to separate the people that get to shareholder and the people that might not?
I think there's a few people in the business I can think of already. Of course, we won't say any names, but it's one of those things where things are going hard and and you're kind of down on luck, and you're able to turn that around. Like there's a few people here that within the business that are on, you know, quite low WGP. They weren't to have that mentality, have that graft to know, you know, I've got it. I've got the thing, you know, I've got the secret sauce or whatever you want to call it, and be able to kind of turn it around. And I know both of them now are on at least 10K. And I think to be a shareholder, I think we've all, me and Chloe, you know, we've all had our ups and downs. We've had, you know, roles that have not gone. Just having that mentality where, you know, next week's going to be a better day. And being able to move things around, move things along every day and go home proud, I guess you could say. So before the end of the day, you know.
Plug that. Plug that. Yeah, sorry, God.
Buzzwords.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, you know, if you have that ability to go, you know what I've done today is movable, and you, like I said, you can go home proud, then you know that, you know, the next day it's only gonna be the same. You just got to be consistent in doing the things that you know you do great.
Mm-hmm. So when you both joined, I imagine, possibly not everyone, but I imagine there was some level of imposter syndrome when you walk in. There's like obviously people doing deals and all that stuff, and you're on a journey. You're not just trying to learn recruitment, but you're trying to learn a market that you're meant to specialize in. It's very difficult. 3 years, 4 years later, shareholder of that same company, there'll be people that join this business that will be feeling exactly the same thing. Like what advice would you give them, knowing that you've been on that journey from sitting there, starting out early, you know, not getting the results immediately, to then becoming a shareholder and on this journey to taking this business to a major sale? What advice would you give?
I think it's enjoy the energy in the office, enjoy the hype, enjoy the deals. They might not be yours, but of course it's the environment we're in. We're in here to all be successful. So we're not individuals, but at the end of the day, just focus on you, kind of, you know, listen, be a sponge, kind of take all the information that you're given by, you know, your leaders and senior guys and all the people in the business. Everyone has like extra to give. I think if you could absorb all that information and just kind of focus, be consistent, I generally think, you know, everybody in this business can achieve greatness. It's just kind of being that consistent, kind of don't be a busy idiot, I guess you could say, and kind of just lock in with the fundamentals.
I don't feel like I'm necessarily doing, or somebody who's a rookie coming in, somebody who is a senior, somebody who's a principal, we could all be doing exactly the same thing in our day. So I think that maybe I've got more experience, and maybe the way that I would pitch something or my knowledge of something might be a little bit more. But I think that to get where you are to get to where I am, all you have to do is just the same things every single day. And I think just compound so important. One, because the more you do something, the more confident you would get. And I think that compounding, whether it's in work or in life, everyone talks about like overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it is ever like that for me. It's never just one conversation or one this, or I don't necessarily think that I'm having way better conversations than somebody who is more junior, maybe a little bit slicker. I don't know sometimes, but I think that like as long as you're just doing the right things day in, day out, then the only trajectory is up, if that makes sense. So
the only thing that will separate them is that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you just got to keep pushing through and coming in, and it's okay to have a day that isn't great. Take that on the chin, feel that. Don't just like bottle it up. Let yourself like feel a bit unhappy about that, but then the next day come in and do exactly the same thing, and you'll just keep chipping away, and then eventually shareholder.
There you go. There you go. Look, I really appreciate you guys joining on this. I've really enjoyed this one. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.